Good evening สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome to Thai PBS World tonight. You are now with me Natha Gomonwatin live from the Thai PBS studio and คุณเทพ Chaiyong joining me live from home. Just about an hour ago, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha just announced curfew nationwide which will be effective tomorrow. คุณเทพชัย
Yes, good evening. So finally, the curfew will be here tomorrow, starting at 10 p.m. That's something that we knew all along that was in the cards. It's just a matter of time because despite the slight decrease in the number of new infection cases, we still cannot say that we have turned the corner. That's why the Prime Minister believes that tougher measures are needed. And curfew, of course, he believes that will be one of the most effective ways to keep people indoors.
That's right. The curfew will be effective from tomorrow night from 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. the next morning. And it appears the toughest measure up until now after the Prime Minister has announced the state of emergency about a week ago. So this is very clear signal of uplifting of the measure, of stricter measure.
Yes. Our team of reporters have talked to a lot of people on the streets, and it's quite interesting that people were not surprised and were not even apprehensive of the new measure. They all believe that this is something that they were prepared to put up with, and they believe that they should in a way help reduce the spreading of the deadly virus. We've talked to a number of vendors in markets, and they said they were making preparations to cope with the new restriction. That means that the night market is out, and people will have to stay indoors or stay home starting at 10 p.m. Of course, there are exceptions, Kunatha. People who need to travel for essential services, those who deal with medical services, and even those who have to work night shifts, like Natha yourself, are allowed to travel.
Yes, that's
but
right.
Of course, you may need some kind of permission, some kind of written paper to certify that you are required for your service at the station.
That's right, and right now Thai PBS is also collecting a list of reporters, a list of our staff who will have to work night shift. So we will have certificate from Thai PBS if we were stopped in the middle of the night, so we can show that we really are working late night during this curfew.
And for foreigners who intend to travel in the next few days, the curfew also has exception for those who want to or need to travel to or from the airport. So if you produce your air tickets and your itinerary, then I think there shouldn't be any problem. The checkpoints, police at the checkpoints will certainly acknowledge that and allow you to go through.
Yes, so that would be some exception, but the signal from the government quite clear from during the day today, especially during the press conference by COVID Situation Center Kun Thep Chai, especially when the spokesman of the COVID Situation Center, he expressed that Prime Minister is not quite happy with the number of infection which still rising and it's above 100 every day. That's the key point.
That's right. We cannot rejoice at the news that the number of new cases have declined continuously for the past few days, because any number that is above the 100 range is certainly bad news for medical experts. They believe that there is a strong need to keep the number down below 100. Today we had 104 for patients above the 100 plus. So that's why the more tougher measures are certainly on their way.
And also in the next 2 weeks' time, the government also asked foreigners and Thai who would like to return to Thailand, they would have to be suspended from coming to Thailand in the next 2 weeks. This is part of trying to slow down visitors coming to our country, coming to Thailand at this very moment. It's part of trying to contain and to block further spread of the coronavirus.
That's right. It's very clear from the remarks by the spokesman of the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration today that many of the new infection cases are people who have come into contact with Thais who return from overseas, or foreigners who have come to Thailand, or foreigners with whom these Thai people have been in contact with while they were overseas. So the Prime Minister, Kun Prayut, has made it very clear that the next 2 weeks, the government will be very tough with Thais and foreigners intending to travel to Thailand. In short, in fact, he wants to see a total halt to the travel into Thailand. But of course, there will be some very few exceptions, especially for Thai students who have already received permission to return and have been issued with so-called fit to fly certificates. So there will be very few exceptions. But the idea is to minimize the number of people traveling to Thailand from overseas.
So this directive will be effective for now, at least until 15th of April, in trying to lessen the number of foreign visitors and Thai who are returning to Thailand from other countries, because this is part of trying to impose stricter measure, more stringent measure on Thai people and foreigners as well.
That's right. According to the spokesman of this COVID center, four of the 6 Thai people who recently returned from Italy were tested positive for the coronavirus, with another 50 people who have come with whom they have come into contact with are being quarantined. So that means that these 6 people came back from Italy. 4 of them were tested positive, and then they started spreading the virus to another 50 people around them. Of course, these people have not been tested positive yet, but they are under self-isolation to ensure that they are not infected and that they are not in any way going to spread the virus to other people. And then one of the most important turning point was the return of 132 Thais from Malaysia. We remember that there was a religious function outside KL, the Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia, in late March. And 132 Thais were among thousands of people who were there. These people returned. And then as many as 47 of them were tested positive. Of course, they were subject to quarantine. But the problem is that as many as 1,000 people who have come into contact with them are also being put under observation or self-isolation. So this only goes to show how dangerous it is for people who come back from overseas and can be potential spreader of the virus.
That's right, that's the key point, because returnees from overseas tend to be the case of showing cluster of infection, especially the case that Kun Thepchai mentioned, the case from overseas, returnees from Malaysia, and the case related to Italy, who returned from Italy. That's why it's become the more stringent measures from the Thai government to try to curb all these causes of further spread of infection, because it doesn't really mean just the case of infection, but it means a large number of people who are surrounded with the infection case have to be under quarantine as well.
That's it. And of course, even at the center of the fight against the coronavirus, also is also in a rather difficult situation, because the virus has struck very close to home for those who are working in the center fighting the pandemic. Because an official working for the center, which is the top government task force leading the fight against the virus, was tested positive for COVID-19 a few days ago. And this has set up an alarm. Today, it is reported that Kun Disathat Botrakit, the Secretary General of the Prime Minister, has himself been in isolation for 1 week now, along with Kun Prateep Lekha, who is the Secretary General of the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration. So that means that 2 top officials at the government house are now in self-isolation out of fear that they could be infected. But of course, they have not been tested positive, but to be on the safe side, they are now being they have put themselves in self-isolation.
That's right. And also today, Dr. Tawisin Wisanuyotin, who is the spokesman of COVID Situation Center, also told us about survey about how people have been preventing themselves, including wearing masks or try to maintain social distancing, staying at home, working from home. And the survey has included opinion of people during 24th to 25th of March with 150,000 people in 71 provinces. The question asked them how they protect themselves in wake of the virus pandemic. And the survey shows that 94% of the respondents said they wear face masks every time they are outdoor. คุณเทพชัย
Yeah. So there's some sort of a good news on that too, that more and more people are aware of the need to keep themselves safe. But of course, Dr. Tawisin, a medical expert, wants more compliance. 100% compliance would be the best if that's possible.
That's right. And during the press conference, in the beginning, he has to wear face mask to show us that even the medical doctor in the press conference, he has to wear it, but to keep the proper distance. And then he take it off just to show that everyone should wear face mask right now.
You know, over the weekend, on the past Saturday and Sunday, streets in Bangkok might have appeared to be quite empty and very unusual for Bangkok. But during the weekdays, the past 4 days at least, according to the Supreme Command, which is in charge of security under the national emergency, the number of people who commute to work every day hasn't really come down. It noted about 20%, only 20% reduction in the traffic. Okay, of course, I mean, if you say in the grand scheme of things, you can say that 20% is quite a lot. But in anticipation of more people complying with the stay home directive, more people have expected to sort of to commute to work. But only 20% reduction of the traffic doesn't really do much to the attention of aimless stay home.
So Kun Thepchai seems to have trouble with the voice, and we will try to correct the problems. And I hope Kun Thepchai is still with us. And right now, we have Dr. Panitarn Wattanayagorn, Chairman of Prime Minister's Security Advisory Committee with us. Good evening, อาจารย์ Panitarn.
Good evening, คุณณัฐฐา คุณเทพชัยครับ I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me, อาจารย์ Panitarn?
Yes, I can hear คุณณัฐฐา
Okay, so I hope the problem will be sorted out, but Ajahn Panitarn is still with me. So Ajahn, it means that the curfew will be imposed nationwide to try to curb with the virus.
Yes, indeed. I think this is a stepping up in terms of measures to cut the activities at night, to make sure that people who can come out at night are the people who are really have to work in the medical fields, in the production fields, in the communication fields, in the news centers, in the transportation fields. That's to make sure that we are able to control activities at night. This is one of the measures that Prime Minister has warned us a few days ago, and now it will begin to be implemented tomorrow.
And it means that a group of people are still exempted from the curfew, and we can show certificate or letter from our office. Like me myself, because I will stop working quite late at night, I can still show the letter from the company that I'm really working late night.
Yes, indeed. I think during the day, I think all agencies and all offices should check with the authority how they can issue, the certificate of permission how to obtain the permissions from their offices, and they need to coordinate with the police, especially at the checkpoints. In the end, I think that would be the idea. The purpose of this is, of course, to make sure that you don't disrupt, the chains of supply, chain of production. At the same time, allowing only the people who are really need to go out at night, including people with emergencies, people who need to go to the hospital, and other people to move around at night. This is one of the steps in the next few days, and we will see more and more of these measures applying in different provinces. Already Khun Thepachai and Khun Natha know very well that in some of the provinces the measures are even tougher. The curfews began at 6 in the evening, lasted until 5 in the morning in many tourist areas, for example.
So Dr. Panitarn, what do you think was the last straw that made the Prime Minister believe that he needed to impose the curfew?
Well, a week has passed. I think the emergency decree has been applied. I think you see a lot of cases of violation, hundreds of violations in various areas, especially people still traveling to get together at night. People still have parties in certain areas. Although majority of the people are now staying at home, they are very much fully cooperated with the government. But the minority of some of these pockets, especially in areas like Bangkok and surrounding provinces, must be controlled more. I think this is one of the purposes. Another purpose is, of course, to allow life to function normally. I think you cannot disrupt the whole society. You cannot break the chains of the production. There will be more crisis if you do that. So in the next days ahead, we will see flexibility on the ground. We will see some confusion, of course, at the checkpoints, as who can get out, who cannot get out. But I hope that in the next few days, things will be much better.
So the curfew will be effective until further notice, right? So
Yes.
So how long you guess it will last?
You have 3 types of evaluation going on right now. One is a daily evaluation, especially in terms of the cases of the infection. That's the daily operations in terms of police arrests, in terms of different productions. They have the daily report to the Prime Minister. And then you have a weekly report on the trend of these activities going up and down. At the moment, the trend is not going down as much as is suggested. And then you have a monthly report that is in line with the limitation of the special decree. If you want to extend, this special decree, you need to get a cabinet approval within a month. So we have 3 different types of evaluations going on at the same time.
So see, all these 3 evaluations will have to be made, on a daily basis. Right?
Yes, indeed. And of course, this is not complete, but you get the idea that the country is now moving into a tighter control at the borders, at the border provinces. Incoming trips are now curtailed, including to those Thais who want to return. Now they are facing more tougher measures, as you indicated that there are some of the infected cases bring back from abroad. So you see in the next week or so, you may see more extended, tougher measures in different areas, as you see in certain countries. Certain countries, the curfew are longer than in Thailand. Prohibitions of the public transportation took place in different countries, including Vietnam and other countries. But for Thailand, as Prime Minister indicated just a few minutes ago, the situation is still under control, but very difficult and very tight, a maneuver that we are now doing, a very critical juncture. If you can get this cooperation going on in the next week or so, you can see stepping down in certain areas. People cannot live like this, Khun Thepachai, for years or for months. This is unusual. We are now moving into Songkran festival. We are moving into school opening festival, opening sessions. We are moving into now postpone the conscription of the military. people, we are moving into different areas that for now you cannot do, and that will increase tensions in the household, in the society. So you need to give a take and be more flexible.
And what the case that you can think that will be leading to stricter measure?
Well, I think we are now looking at different groups or clusters or areas that people get infected easily. In certain communities, in certain types of gatherings, in certain type of offices, you need to control more. You see banks are now closing down more and more because their workers are getting infected. And those are the areas that you may need to look closer into the cooperation. Now, today also complaints are now being circulated that some government offices are not closing down as much as they used to. You can see a lot of people still working up. So those have to be more put back under control.
Do you think it may come to a point where the government may need to ask business establishments to consider scaling down their operations so that fewer people will be needed to travel to work?
Well, they have. I think the business sectors, from what we have, the reports, I think they already have a plan ahead of us. But of course, some of the productions maybe need to be open. The government may need to ask them to remain open. So yes, of course, we have different activities, different measures applied. But in general, yes, I think all activities should be scaled down to the minimum level. But that minimum level has to be discussed among Prime Minister and his advisors and his different sectors that he's now working with.
Any discussion that perhaps in the near future, two people meeting would be banned, or gathering of more than two people will be banned, just like in Australia or in Germany?
Well, Australia is in a difficult situation, although they are now able to control the infection rate down to about 9%. But they're now moving into the winter time, and the winter time is going to be very tough for Australia. They may see more cases rising. So of course, they need to apply more tougher measures. But for Thailand, we are now in summer. We still have time to work hard before the rain comes. But yes, time indeed is running out if you are not getting things moving.
No, in the past when we said curfew, the image of soldiers, tough-looking soldiers, fully armed soldiers, standing at checkpoints always came up. So are we going to see that kind of scene this time around?
I don't think you see that. You see more police and volunteers and healthcare workers at the checkpoints to screen people and to make sure that they're not violating the decree at the moment. For the time being, the police is leading the operations on the ground with the healthcare workers.
Okay. And I understand that it's a matter of asking people to cooperate. You're not going to enforce the curfew strictly legally, right?
Well,
for the time being, anyway.
This is serious. I think
Okay.
the second order announced a few minutes ago is very serious. But in the beginning, you can see more flexibilities. People may need to go out and to get letters of certificate, to be verified tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. You can see confusions maybe as who can come out, who cannot come out. But within a few days, I think we need to bring the situation at night under control, and less people will be going out at night. And this is serious. If you violate that, you face tough penalties.
And some people say that curfew during the night time perhaps not quite efficient because it will block people to come out of home during the night time only. But it means that to have daily activity, it will be normal, will probably be the same.
Well, I think you need to begin with the areas or with the time frame that are more easy to apply. and need to make sure that at night there will be no activities, or at least some activities as needed. And then you can move to other time, as some provinces already began applying different time frame. But for the general public, for the whole country, I think this is a signal of things to come. Get people ready, to stay home by order. Get people cooperating, for the tougher measures. Once you secure the night, you can begin to think of other time during the day or during different time. But it's a night time that the operation will begin, and they may move on if the measures are not successful. Let's hope that they are more successful, and we don't need to expand more, of this curfew time.
So that means that you are not dismissing the possibility of the curfew hours being extended, right? If things don't improve as what expected.
Well, that is the indication that Prime Minister gave from the beginning, that we are now moving into the steps and series of measures, from a general cooperation to an order, stricter orders. Now we are just beginning to move from the first order to the second order. You may see more coming in Bangkok and surrounding areas. And this is one of the most infected areas. And now the south also 3 borders is on the provinces in the south, the deep south. And then you can see the east, the eastern coast. Some of these regions may face, if not already facing tougher measures. In Chonburi, they have more tougher measures than Bangkok.
I understand that many or most of the high-ranking officials and personnel at the government house are now working remotely, working from home, right? Is it something difficult for these people to work under this very extraordinary and demanding situation, not to be physically present at the government house to run the show?
Well, it is indeed a challenge for a lot of people, including government officers, but things can be done from home. And then we have many good people still working, still healthy. Prime Minister, and the team is still committed. I think we are not affected in general by these. But of course, individuals, regrettably, they need to be quarantined. But of course, they will come out, and then we'll keep fighting. I think we wish for the best for them.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed for your time, Dr. Panitarn Wattanayagorn, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Okay, be safe and stay observant.
Yes, you too. Stay safe. Thank you. So in Thailand, Prime Minister just announced curfew, which will be effective from tomorrow night at 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. in the morning, and it will be effective for the time being until further notice. But in the US, the President Donald Trump has announced that even though the prediction of death toll is quite high, he is far from going to announce national lockdown or national shutdown.
Why not take the power out of the hands of the governors and you just issue a stay-at-home order for every state in this country?
States are different, and I understand that Governor of Florida, great governor, Ron DeSantis, issued one today, and that's good, that's great. But there are some states that are different. There are some states that don't have much of a problem. There are some, well, they don't have the problem. They don't have thousands of people that are positive, or thousands of people that even think they might have it, or hundreds of people in some cases. So you have to look at states. You have to give a little bit of flexibility. But if a state in the Midwest, or if Alaska, as an example, doesn't have a problem, it's awfully tough to say, close it down. So we have to.
So as of now, the US won't be announcing to have national lockdown yet, according to President Donald Trump. And for strip tests in Thailand, we can see the Chulalongkorn University has already launched a strip test to test people who perhaps infected with coronavirus. And there are other test center in other countries in ASEAN as well. So let's take a look how other countries in ASEAN cope with having strip test.
In Singapore, a medtech company, Biolodex, recently launched its rapid test kit for COVID-19 and has obtained provisional authorization from Singapore's Health Science Authority to be used in the country. It can detect COVID-19 with an accuracy of more than 95% in 10 minutes by using serum, plasma, or whole blood samples. In Malaysia, a homegrown technology company, Biogenes Technologies Sendirian Berhad, is developing a test kit which can deliver test results in under 1 minute. Other than that, Malaysia has also introduced drive-through COVID-19 tests, which can help citizens get screened for the virus in less than 10 minutes, with the results available in about 24 hours. In Philippines, the Food and Drug Administration has approved 5 rapid test kits and a more accurate 5-minute test from a US manufacturer which detects COVID-19 infections. It can give results within 10 minutes or hours after extracting a blood sample from a patient. All are manufactured abroad, with 4 tests made in China and 1 from Singapore. In Vietnam, the authorities of Vietnam's capital city, Hanoi, has deployed rapid COVID-19 testing sites, with hundreds of people have come to take the test on Tuesday morning. 3 makeshift testing sites have been deployed in 3 districts across Hanoi for local residents to take COVID-19 test and get results after just 10 minutes. Cambodia is among one of the 40 countries who have resorted to use COVID-19 rapid test kits, which are developed by the University of Hong Kong. This rapid test developed by a team of researchers from the university in January, and it can produce results in less than 2 hours. Moreover, the Ministry of Health also received COVID-19 rapid test kits and medical experts from China. The Chinese embassy in Cambodia coordinated with the Jack Ma and Alibaba foundations to urgently donate test kits to Cambodia.
And right now, not only citizens or obviously government will be working quite hard to cope with COVID-19, but that includes journalists around the world who are fighting and try to report as accurate as possible, and we have to save ourselves as well. And right now, I joined by Kun Naat Bunnag. She's just joining us, and last night she has listened to what the leading journalists in the US has discussed, how they cope, how they report the COVID-19 situation. And Kun Thepchai, are you also with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
So
Yes.
welcome Kun Dharaya to the program.
Yes.
Glad to have you as an addition to this nightly program.
Thank you so much.
So can you tell us what went on with the conversation of the journalist last night?
So during the Facebook Live session, so she was sharing her experience as a journalist.
What's her name?
So her name is Laurie Garrett. She's a veteran epidemic reporter for more than 30 years, and she's also a former Pulitzer Prize winner as well. And she's also behind so many books that are related to many epidemics. She has been through so many occasions, for example, like HIV, SARS, as well as the Ebola outbreak.
So
and now with
that's she.
COVID-19, and that is her.
Yeah.
So she has wrote so many books, and she has done a lot of research and traveling to many countries to get more knowledge about what is going on and how they actually deal with the outbreak. So with the COVID-19, she actually revealed during the Facebook Live that she has so many struggles while doing the reporting as well as doing research.
Why is that?
So what she actually said is that the pressure is so overwhelming because it's not just about the research, but She actually said that she has to work every day 18 hours without a break, only like one lunch break, just to report and find information. But what is challenging for her is that she feels overwhelmed, because when she goes to sleep, she would think like, oh, did she like report anything that is incorrect or something like that? And the bigger challenge for this one is that everyone wants expertise information for free. Well, of course, we don't want to like access articles that are specifically for subscribers, or even go through like academic portals. So in times of crisis like this, of course, we want information that is reliable and it answers all the questions that we want. For example, whether we're safe, if our children are safe, or if we're not safe, what we're supposed to do from now on.
So obviously, she's very experienced in covering many pandemic, not only COVID-19, but she's been through many difficulty. And what about other journalists who share in the discussion? What do they exchange or reflect their views in terms of coverage?
In terms of the coverage itself, it's not just only finding expertise, information which are reliable, and I think it's like a challenge for all of us, not just for Laurie, but for everyone here. It's when we're in times of crisis, of course we want information like just immediately. We tend to turn to the media, whether it's online or broadcast media. So of course the information must be reliable and must be very accurate. And what she said during the Facebook Live is that if there's a mistake, it costs so many lives out there. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, it has the number of deaths and new infections are increasing every day. So if there's a mistake, it's definitely going to cause more damages.
So she really wants to emphasize on accurate information and how journalists have to keep working professionally even in the difficult situation, and we have to learn to protect ourselves as well.
Definitely, including social distancing, which is what we're doing at Thai PBS World as well. So as you can see right here, we're quite distant from each other, including Kun Tepachai, who's also at home right here.
Home.
What are your thoughts, Kun Tepachai?
Yeah, so I think one interesting point that she made was that despite a number of pandemics that the world had gone through earlier over the past many years, it looks like the world wasn't better prepared this time around. I mean, that it shows in the way, I mean, especially in the case of the US, which has now become the epicenter of the deadly virus. I mean, it goes to show that we did not learn very much from the past experience.
But in one thing as well, I think because everyone is also panicking whether we got infected or we're getting sick or anything. But I think it's the panic itself. So when we panic, we usually don't know what to do. So
I think what she said reflected the challenge that is facing the journalists around the world, including those in Thailand. How to get the accurate information, reliable information, and to fight against fake news, and certainly to make sure that the authorities in charge of the fight against the virus are transparent enough to give us, accurate information and that the whole thing is not politicized.
There's one interesting point from Laurie. Besides the worries about presenting the facts accurately, she also faced a lot of criticism, including hate speech, hateful comments to be very specific. Let's have a listen to what she has to say about this situation.
Feeling like, every night I go to bed feeling like, oh my God, there's this list of things I didn't do today. Why? I worked all day, 18 hours nonstop. I took one break to eat lunch, and I feel like I'm still underwater. I haven't caught up. And every single night I go to sleep wondering, did I get a fact wrong? Did I tweet something that wasn't exactly right? Did I misstate or misunderstand this research paper? Do I believe this scientist? Do I believe their analysis? And it's just, the pressure is just overwhelming. I have to say, the tweet that has, of all the tweeted things, and I do get like death threats and horrible things.
This is so painful for her because she has received very hurtful comments, and one of them that we were supposed to show you guys here is that she has received a tweet from a science editor bashing her, saying that, oh, because of this epidemic, so that means she's going to get rich out of it. So that is very hurtful for her. And of course, it's during this time we all want correct information, but there are still some people who are ready to say mean things, and to be very specific, it's cyberbullying as well. It's even journalists ourselves have to confront with cyberbullying as well. So that's quite unfortunate sometimes. So, Thai, have you ever experienced any cyberbullying during your career?
I think it's common for many journalists to be under that kind of situation. And especially in critical time like this, there are people with extreme views who want to sort of find fault with you, or want to put across their own views at the expense of your credibility.
Okay, so thank you very much for summarizing and telling us the lesson learned from veteran journalist Kun Laurie Garrett. So it's good practice for all journalists around the world right now, because we have to report and to fight with COVID-19 at the same time.
We all need to be aware of the basic questions that we all want to know is whether I am safe, whether my children are safe, or if I'm not safe, what do we have to do? These are the very basic questions when we do reporting in such crisis like this.
Yes. And Kun Nat and Kun Thepchai, in the UK, they try to solve the problem of testing infection by having drive-through into a department store in the UK. So let's take a look.
The UK government has set up a drive-through COVID-19 testing centre in the car park of an IKEA store in Wembley, North London. The facility has several temporary structures built in the furniture store's car park. The government has been criticized by some NHS doctors and nurses for not ensuring they have enough protective gear and virus testing kits. The UK government announced last Friday that it was introducing a much bigger testing scheme for operatives working in the UK National Health Service. Many people who arrived to be tested but did not have the correct documents were turned away. Everyone to be tested has to have a direct invitation from the NHS.
This is a time when people need us more rather than staying home. If I'm sure I'm negative, it's better for me to go back to work rather than waiting for 14 days at home.
2 weeks ago I had these symptoms, very bad ones, so I'm due to come back to work on Friday, so I thought before I come I'm gonna get checked, but apparently I have to have an email confirmation, invitation confirmation. I don't have this.
I've been turned away for a test. Yes. I'm a frontline carer. I'm up at work 7 a.m. tomorrow morning working with 17 clients one shift, all elderly, all come and discharged from hospital. So I'm not NHS and they've told me I can't have a test done.
It is believed that around 1 in 4 of NHS staff are self-isolating or off sick. They could return to work as quickly as possible if they were tested soon. Boots have also set up temporary test centres for frontline workers at its Beeston headquarters in Nottingham and at Chessington World of Adventures in Surrey.
And with the situation in the US, which is still very bleak as it's the epicenter of COVID-19, we would have to listen to what the former US ambassador, former Thai ambassador to the US has to say about the implications of the situation and how the US has handled the situation. But right now, we can see how many countries around the world, people must be quite frustrated with social distancing, working from home, and they cannot really leave home because of the order to stay at home and work from home. And the only way that people can socialize right now, perhaps on the virtual meeting, even dining, eating, it's the way to solve the situation of having to be alone in the house, especially in the house with not having other family members. And this is the situation in the United States, in which the ambulance and security personnel have to clean the city in order to try to contain the spread of the virus. Especially yesterday, when the President Donald Trump, he said that the number of death toll could be reaching 240,000. And that's what is happening, especially in the US. So if the line with the ambassador is ready, please tell me. And Khun Thepchai, are you still with me right now?
Yes.
Okay, the situation in the US is quite bleak, as I reported before, especially yesterday when we see what the President Trump has communicated with the American public, that the death toll could be as high as 100,000. And right now we are waiting for former Thai ambassador to the US, Dr. Chaiyong Satjipanon, to be joining us live to evaluate the situation in the US.
Yeah, it's quite
And with the situation in the US, it doesn't only in the US only in terms of social distancing, working from home. It's the message that the US president trying to tell Americans to comply and try to stay at home as much as they can to contain the spread of the virus. And for many people around the world right now, they must have felt quite frustrated to be alone and to take care of themselves. So many of them has arranged to have virtual meeting or virtual socializing. Let's take a look.
Get the comments keep coming in, man.
During the coronavirus outbreak, when people should stay at home, isolate themselves from others, their group of people take this opportunity to reach people, each other, by using social media platforms. In Singapore, there is a group of musicians perform their shows online as social distancing when clubbing goes online. A coronavirus pandemic isn't stopped clubber in Singapore, as DJs and parties move online in accordance with social distancing measures. As countries across the world face lockdown, many are wondering how they can stay healthy during weeks or months of confinement that lie ahead. Hong Kongers, who have been self-isolating long before the pandemic reached Europe and the US, say it can be done. They say that they have been working from home for about 7 to 8 weeks now, and it has been challenging, but it has really forced them to creative and innovate. A yoga trainer begins a workout for clients trying to stay fit at home during the coronavirus pandemic.
Go ahead, have a seat.
Back to Thailand, where people have just started to stay at home. After self-isolation for a few weeks, people have started feeling lonely and missing friends. At the same time, they seem to enjoy video conference with friends, chatting, dancing, having dinner, or drinking. As people informed by state officials to increase practicing to stay at home, social distancing, because we may have to live a new lifestyle like this for a little while.
So that seems to be the best people can do at the moment to try to give themselves some good time over virtual, because right now many people around the world, they cannot meet in person. Kun Thepchai, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Yes. Yeah.
So that's the way how people socialize right now, virtually.
Yeah. I think there are some I think there's a little bit problem with the connection. Can you hear me, Kunata?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, I think the situation in the US, as you mentioned, is getting more and more alarming because the death toll continues to rise. And now it hits a 5,000 mark. There have been already 5,000 people who have died of the deadly virus. And in one single day, the death toll has climbed by almost 1,000. So it's no joke that President Trump, painted a grim picture of as many as 100,000 to 200,000 people could die if things are not done properly to contain the spreading of the virus.
Yes, and on Wednesday alone, 5 more states, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Nevada, and Pennsylvania, expand their stay-at-home orders. So it means many states in America right now are on high alert of staying at home or partially locked down to try to cope with the crisis.
And the Vice President, Mr. Mike Pence, admitted in an interview today that the U.S. might be moving toward the direction of what Italy is now. That is quite frightening because Italy now has recorded the biggest number of casualties, both in terms of death toll and sick people. And Mike Pence, the Vice President, admitted that the U.S. might be moving toward that direction. So it's quite an alarming admittance on the part of the U.S. leader.
And in Spain, right now, total death toll surpassed 10,000 already. In a single day, yesterday, it's the record day rise to 950. Right now, Spain's coronavirus death toll rose to 10,003, up from 9,053 on Wednesday, an increase of 950.
Yeah. So if you look back to Thailand in the grand scheme of things, the number of infections or even the number of deaths here in Thailand, if compared to other countries, especially those in Europe right now, we have to admit that Thailand is doing quite not too bad in containing the spread of the virus. Even the U.S. ambassador to Bangkok, Mr. Desombly, last night, who was in an interview with us, highly commended the Thai medical authorities for their excellent job in trying to flatten the curve. Even though the country is still far from turning the corner, but we are making progress and we have been able so far to keep down the death toll and try to contain the number of new infection cases. And as we just mentioned earlier, that the country is taking an even more drastic step starting tomorrow night when a 5-hour curfew, 6-hour curfew, that will take effect starting Friday at 10 p.m. Right, when people will be ordered out of the streets and to confine themselves at home to make sure that they are not exposed to the virus or to if they're sick, they will not be out there to spread the virus.
Another country in Southeast Asia, Kuntepchai, Indonesia reaches highest number of record fatalities in Asia after China. And right now it has reported of having 13 deaths and 113 new cases. The total death in Indonesia is 170 and confirmed infection is 1,790. South Korea still has reported death of 169 and nearly 1,000 infections. So that's the latest figures of two countries in Asia, Indonesia and South Korea.
So we're still waiting for the connection with our former ambassador to the Washington D.C., Kun Chaiyong, right? And
yes, we are trying to connect with him.
Yeah. So
regarding
everybody's working from home, so the internet could be a big challenge now.
Regarding the U.S. situation, because I had a phone interview briefly before we went live on air, and he said that it's quite a big concern regarding the medical care for the U.S. Right now. It's very, very big challenging for American citizens who would like to have medical support right now. Not only for COVID-19, but every kind of medical care right now. It's a big challenge in the U.S.
You know, one interesting point is that despite the severity of the situation in the U.S., to wear or not to wear surgical masks when you are outdoors is still a matter of debate. In Thailand, we all know that wearing a mask when you are outdoors or you're on the streets is a must now, right? If you don't wear a mask, then you'll be looked at with rolling eyes. But in the U.S., in most states, it's still not something that people are required to wear masks. And there is a big debate among even medical doctors there whether or not Americans should be start wearing masks in order to reduce the chance of their catching the virus. Because at least up until now, most people in most states anyway still believe that only sick people should wear masks, or medical staff who treat sick people, but not ordinary healthy people should wear masks. So it's still common, for people in America to go out and see people without masks, which is a big contrast to a situation here in Asian countries, right? In Thailand, you go out and you see practically almost everyone now is wearing surgical masks.
That's right, and another following trouble. It's major hurdle in many countries around the world, of course. It's about economic impact because of coronavirus and the spread of COVID-19. And especially in the US right now, there is report that 6.65 million people filing for unemployment last week, which is quite a high number really, more than 6 million people. They are losing jobs because of the COVID-19, and it must be an urgent issue for the US government to try to tackle a large number of unemployment.
Yeah. Now in Thailand, we don't have yet the official projection of people who become jobless as a result of the pandemic. But we know for sure that the millions of people are being affected by the economic impact from the pandemic. As we reported yesterday, that as many as 21 million people, now it's 22 million people, have registered to claim the cash handouts to be given out by the government, 5,000 baht for a month for each of these people for 3 consecutive months, March, April, and May. So the money may not sound very much, but certainly in time like this, it means a lot to daily wage earners and so-called gig workers who depends on the daily income to survive. So altogether, 15,000 baht for 3 months is a lifesaver for these people. And of course, if the pandemic lasts longer, it means more suffering for these people. When we say that people should stay home to work from home, I mean, certainly this doesn't really mean much to people who have to go out on the street, who have to drive motorcycles, who have to offer the services in person to earn money. So these are the large group of people who are being most affected. And tomorrow, the cabinet is scheduled to discuss additional measures to help people who are being impacted by the coronavirus.
That's right. And let's take a look at Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Center, because in the morning, World Health Organization has already warned the whole world that the total number of infection could be higher than 1 million. And take a look at the red figure on the top left corner. It's 952,171 cases. That total case of infection around the world at this minute from Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Center. And the total death is about 48,320. And right now, the number one must be Spain or Italy.
Yeah. So you are watching the English news service of Thai PBS World, and of course the biggest news today is the imposition of curfew starting tomorrow night and lasting between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. So that means that during those hours, people are required to stay indoors. But of course, I mean, there are exceptions for people who need to make essential travel. When people who need to go to the airport or travel from the airport, and people who are involved in essential services like medical services, and even people who need to work night shifts will be exempted. But of course, this will be a whole new life for many people in Bangkok who are used to, a carefree nightlife in the city. So starting tomorrow night until when we don't know, when things will be certainly much different than before. Yeah.
Yes, that would be until further notice, according to announcement by the government. And as Dr. Panitarn told us from the very beginning, that perhaps tougher measures will be imposed after this curfew has been in place. They will have to evaluate the situation quite closely because they are not quite happy with the number of infection, which rising beyond 100 cases every day. They would like to see it much, much lower to contain the spread of the virus.
So what the government wants to see is a sudden and tangible reduction of traffic on Bangkok street. I think that should be the best indicator as to whether or not all these stringent measures introduced by the government are working. So if starting, say, this weekend, after the curfew takes effect and other stringent measures are strictly enforced, then if starting Monday, if we see fewer cars on the street, we see fewer people on the street, meaning that more and more people are working from home, that should answer the big question posed by the government as to whether or not we will be able to turn the corner in a few weeks' time.
Yes, so we have to see what will be coming out after this curfew has been in place. It seems we have no luck in trying to contact with the former ambassador of Thailand to the US, Kun Thepchai.
Yeah, it should be interesting to hear his point of view because he's an expert on U.S. affairs. Of course, he served in the U.S. for many years, and we have been hearing his views about the U.S., especially in the aftermath of the pandemic. I mean, he has been offering a lot of interesting observation as to the kind of situation that the superpower country like the U.S. is facing. So we try again next time anyway.
Yes, I will try to contact him again. So we can wrap up our Thai PBS World tonight for now, as we keep you updated with the latest announcement by Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha of curfew, which will be effective from tomorrow night at 10 p.m. So that's all from us for now. คุณเทพชัยยอง and me นัทธาโกมลวาทิน Goodbye for now ค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ
Goodbye สวัสดีครับ